Welcome into Bet the W. Danielle, Alvari, your host here, and very excited to welcome back, of course, Calvin Wetzel, who was hot off of 5-0 earlier this week. So definitely the person I want on this show, as always. Calvin, how are we feeling?
I'm feeling great. Yeah, we're recording in the middle of the Storm Sun game right now. Let's just
Just
say I'm
about
not
the
gonna be 5 and
end.
0 in this game, but it's all good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling good.
Yeah, well, you still went 5-0 the other day, so that makes up for this one, obviously. I actually, it was funny, on Tuesday, I think I did a 14 parlay just to see, like money line parlay, just to see if I could get all right. Got it right. The money
Let's
line, of
go.
course, though, Aces and Liberty were involved in that at minus whatever it was. And so really the value was like plus 260. Not a parlay I would ever give out, but it was fun to hit a 4-leg parlay nonetheless. So we count it. Before we get into the Friday games, of course, that we're going to break down news in the W in the world of women's basketball. The Unrivaled League announced, which is funny because it is kind of actually rivaled, at least by by Athletes Unlimited. It does have a rival. But Unrivaled League here, Brianna Stewart and Afisa Collier founding a new women's professional league. This is going to happen during the WNBA offseason, set to occur from January to March, which again overlaps with Athletes Unlimited. But very different format. This is going to be Queen of the Court style, 3-on-3, 1-on-1 in Miami. Sounds very fun. So it means more space, more scoring, and limited to 30. 30 of the best players in the world. We know already one of them is going to be Chelsea Gray, and that was so funny to me that that's the one player they announced because that's all I need to know. I would
Yeah,
absolutely love to watch Chelsea Gray in a one-on-one situation. What do you
sold.
think of this news?
Sold. Yeah, no, I love it. It's great. Especially it's really timely when you talk about like WNBA prioritization that keeps coming up with
Mm-hmm.
Gabby Williams coming back. And obviously like these athletes need off-season opportunities and need ways to earn money and play basketball for the other 8 months of the year.
In their own
And
country.
Yeah, right, and not
Yeah.
exactly because not only the prioritization thing, but also when things happen like what happened with Brittany Griner, like you want more opportunities here. So AU has done that obviously, and now we
Mm-hmm.
just have another one for 30 more athletes to stay home and play basketball and get paid, and it's great. I think it's going in a great direction, and it's going to be fun. It's new, it's different, it's unique. So, like you said, Chelsea Gray, I'm sold. I'll be
Yeah.
watching.
And I love 3-on-3. I think we've all seen how fun that can be. And like you mentioned, obviously this is a huge step forward related to the prioritization rules, which were part of the 2020 collective bargaining agreement that basically said that the players have to be back for the start of training camp to be eligible for the season. And so that puts a lot of these WNBA players in a tough spot. This kind of addresses that. I love it. I think it's good all around. I think it's good for the league. I think Brianna Stewart touched on this as well, and just saying that this is going to make the faces of the league more well known, and then they're going to want to go watch their WNBA team. So I hope that that's what happens here.
Yeah, and, like we've seen, I love 3-on-3 too, and we've seen it before. But you know what I'm most excited for is 1-on-1, because when do we ever see that?
Yeah, never. It's so exciting.
Never.
It's funny
Yeah,
because you
we're gonna
see
get
some
it.
people responding to the news also that, oh my God, I would give an arm and a leg to see an NBA version of this. And it's like, and the W's doing it first. What else is
That's
new?
right. That's right.
So,
Blazing the trail.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. But we do have 4 games on Friday that we're going to get into here. And I'm going to start with the Indiana Fever at the Washington Mystics, and lots of asterisks on this one here. The Fever kind of on a little slump, mini skid here, 3 straight losses, none of which they covered, which to me is the bigger issue, is not only are they losing these games, but they're not living up to expectations anymore. The last time that the Mystics and the Fever played was June 13th in Indiana. The Mystics lost 87-66. Elena Deladon and Natasha Cloud played in that game. They're not going to be playing in this one, it seems. And somehow Aaliyah Boston in their most recent game, Fever lost to their most recent game, she scored 22 points on 8 of 9 shooting, and yet it still seemed like they weren't trying to find her. What is that about?
Yeah, well, she's coming off her two, worst, in quotes, lowest point totals of the season before that.
Mm-hmm.
And they only, she dominated the first half. They only got her a few looks in the second half. I think she only had 6 points in the second half of that one. Like, been seeing a lot going around on Twitter about this, rightfully so. Like, why isn't Aaliyah Boston getting the touches? But
Mm-hmm.
especially against the Mystics team who's without Shakira Austin and, like you said, probably without Elena Deladon. She's questionable. Tasha Cloud's questionable. But to
Mm-hmm.
me, especially with Elena Deladon, maybe even Cloud, but especially with Deladon, with at this point in her career with the injuries that she's had, if I see questionable, I think doubtful because I don't think they're pushing her
Yeah.
unless she's 100%, right? They have no reason to. So
No.
to me, I don't think she's playing. Shakira's not playing. You're really thin on the front court. This is a team Aaliyah Boston needs to go eat against. So if you're the Fever, you have to get her the ball. And we haven't seen that enough in the last few games. So it's correlated, right? You said they're on a losing skid. Why do you think that is? Maybe because Aaliyah Boston isn't getting the ball. So we'll see if they're able to do it. We have a line. We actually just got lines like
I
right
guessed
before.
this is Fever -2.5, and that is not even close to what it is.
Has it moved a lot already? Because I pulled it up like right before we hopped on, and it was 3.5. Oh wait, did you say you guessed Fever -2.5?
Yes, yes.
Yes,
I
you're right.
guess
It's the opposite.
Fever would
It's
be
the opposite.
favored here. It's opposite. Which, I mean, the Mystics are at home, -3.5.
Yep.
I mean, I'm surprised. I'm surprised to see this because if there's no EDD and there's no Natasha and there's no Shakira, this is a big issue. This is a big issue that they would still be favored. I'm surprised.
Yeah, we saw how the Mystics looked. I was wrong, by the way, about that game. The last game, the Mystics played without. They did have Natasha Cloud, but they didn't have Elena Deladon. They were 5.5 or 6.5 point underdogs in Dallas. And Daniel Matai, friend of the show, went head to head with me. He got me on that one because I thought, listen, like Elena Deladon is awesome. There's no way she is worth this many points for them to be 6-point underdogs against Dallas. I was wrong. They lost by 15 or 17 or whatever it was. So I don't know. She's obviously a big deal. And then when you throw in Natasha Cloud into the mix as well, like they don't have a strong bench. The Mystics don't. So you're right. Like it's tough because the Fever have been on a skid too. So it's almost like one of these teams has to end it. I don't know which one. I
feel like I'm trying to get cute here and get out ahead of when the Fever are going to bounce back because I hope that that's inevitable. And again, it's not that the Mystics are this bad team. It's that 3 of their starters could not be playing more than anything.
Yeah,
so,
well, and the bench isn't good. They are a good team, but they don't have a good bench when you're missing over half your starting lineup. It's a big deal. But I want to know where you're at with the total because to me, this spread, I don't know what to do with it because of all the injuries that we talked about. But this is a big under for me, big time under. It's at 160 right now. No way it should be in the 160s in my opinion.
It was 157 the last time they played, I believe, and it went under. So I'm with you there. I could definitely see an under happening here. I think the issue is, like you said, I need to know who's playing on the Mystics before I'd be super comfortable betting an under because if EDD is going to go something like that, like you said, maybe they won't push her. But that would be the only thing for me because otherwise the Mystics bench is going to be a huge drop-off. But is that also going to be a drop-off in defense? And if so, are the Fever going to go on a little run and it's good get-right spot for them? But if that happens, maybe the Mystics, because the bench has that drop-off on all ends, the offense and the defense, there'll be limited scoring from them as well. So I still think I'm in on an under, but I definitely want to be a little bit more sure about who's playing. I do think this is going to move though. Like you said, like it's 160.5. It was 157 last time. I think you have to get this one as early as you can.
Yeah, well, I agree. And you might have a window where, you know, these players are announced in or out where you can grab it before it moves, but books are getting better about that and moving pretty quickly. So I probably will take the under even beforehand because like I said, I don't think Elena Deladon is 50-50, even though she's questionable. I think she's probably like 20-80 to play. Yeah. And with these other starters, you're right, I think, in terms of making a difference on both sides of the ball. And not that Elena Deladon doesn't impact the defense, but to me, her offensive impact is way bigger than her defensive impact. So with her specifically, with her out, this moves the needle way towards the under. And if she plays, obviously, you want to take the over. But I don't think that's happening. Again, I've been wrong about the Mystics in recent times, but I would take this under, and I feel like it should be at the mid 150s right now, unless we see Deladon play, and then you can move it back up towards 160 or upper 150s.
I love that. I'm glad you pointed out that the total is definitely the way to look on this one. I'm with you on the under. I might get cute and take the points with the Fever. I might try to get cute and say,
I'm going
to get out in front of this.
You love your baby Fever.
Yeah. I don't know what we're going to see from the Mystics with this many players possibly being out. And it's funny because we make fun. They don't have a very good bench. I don't have a very good bench in fantasy. Calvin knows this. I was discussing this with him earlier this week because Jordan Canada comes back from injury and I go, oh, how do I get her off my IR? And it was just a very difficult puzzle. And now I have Natasha Cloud listed as out, and I have I think Diamond Miller too was listed recently again. So it all just ebbs and flows. So I don't fault them or the Mystics here, but I might get cute and look to the Fever. We'll see what we got. The Big Bad Aces are also playing. They're on the road. They're at Dallas. 10.5 is the number. Aces minus 10.5 on the road. Total of 175.5. I guessed 173.5. That was the last total for the last game, I believe. It went over easily, obviously. I thought this would be closer to Aces -7.5 based on how well Dallas played them, especially in Vegas. What do you think of this line?
I'm confused because,
Yes.
like you said, 11.5 is what it closed at. Obviously, Kelsey Plum, late scratch in the last game, so it moved from
Late
14.5
important.
to 11.5. Yep. And now Kelsey Plum is questionable. So in terms of how they're incorporating the line, you figure they're incorporating 50% of Kelsey Plum into this line, right? So you go from 11.5 in Vegas. Now you move to Dallas, which home court should move the line by like 6 points, 6 or 7 points. So that should get you into the mid single digits. And then half of Kelsey Plum gets you back up to 10.5. I don't like Kelsey Plum's great, but I don't know about that.
She's not even been the top 2 scorers on the team this year.
Yeah, I mean, the only other thing is that the books are really, really taking into account how good Road Dog Dallas is and how not good Dallas is in any other situation. Because we've talked about it
in any situation.
Road favorites or at home, either one, because we've talked about it for the last 2.5 years on this pod that Road Dog Dallas covers all the time. And Dallas at home, Dallas as favorites, doesn't cover as much. So they're at home in this game. Maybe this line ends up being correct. Maybe Kelsey Plum plays. We'll see. But I am a little bit confused why it's almost the same as the last game, even though you're moving venues.
And Satu Sabali, illness, missed the second half, not on the injury report for Friday. Any concern there?
I mean, you like to
didn't
think
play the second half last game.
Yeah, they said he was questionable to return, which I don't know what that means when you have an illness. Like, did you just go throw up in the back
mid-game? Yeah,
yeah, and you're like, why are you not out? Why are you questionable? She ended up being out, but I like to think that she would be on the injury report if she had any question about her status going in this game. But we have seen this type of thing before with teams where they sort of like play games and add someone late, so that maybe books are taking that into account. Like if she does get added to the injury report, obviously this line makes a lot more sense to be in the double digits. But I don't know. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt on the injury report for now that she's playing.
Yes, that's how I'll look to this one as well. It was a very odd situation where just out for illness, questionable return in the middle of a game, and again, not listed on the report for this one. These Aces double-digit ones. It's like we could have taken both double-digit spreads on Tuesday with New York and also with the Aces, the way that they played out. And I just think that's what's so dicey to me. They never feel safe to bet these double-digit spreads. And when I look back at how they fared so far, it's like 50-50. The Aces and the New York Liberty have been 50-50 on covering spreads that are in the double digits. It's not like, oh yeah, they've been killing it or they've been doing horrible at it. It's virtually the same as any other spread, which is why it's the great equalizer. So this is hard for me to get with 10.5. Do you want to take the points with the Wings at home?
I think I do. Yeah. It's scary because, like I said, the Wings,
double digits?
they're just different at home. But it's a lot. Why is it 10.5? It's a lot.
Why is it?
Yeah, I think they can hang with them again.
Yeah. 175.5 though. Really high total. I don't want to bet the over. Do you?
No. This one's a little bit confusing too because it was 173.5 the other day. Do you have the score of that game pulled up?
89-82. So 160.
Yeah, so it finished at 171.
Yeah.
So
171.
It went just under the 173.5. And now you move the total up 2 points, which again, it might be taking into account Kelsey Plum. You think if Kelsey Plum comes back, obviously that total should go up. But considering she's questionable and we've seen a lot of sort of mysterious illnesses that have lingered a long time going around the league this year, to say the least. So I wouldn't necessarily count her
into
play.
All-Star break. So
right, like why not? And
sense.
it's the Aces. Like you're gonna get the 1 seed either way, no matter what happens. You're double-digit favorites anyway. I don't know why you push her either in the same. A different situation, but same idea as Delle Donne. So I feel like it's a little bit weird that they went under and then they raised the total by 2 points just for the potential of Kelsey Plum playing. So I might take an under again.
Yeah. I especially if this moves up at all, if anybody bets this up above 175.5, I'll take a piece of the under. I could see it. I could absolutely see it. The Atlanta Dream, very much an over team for me as well. Typically they're at the Chicago Sky. I guessed this wrong too. I think I'm flipping who I think, like I'm on the opposite side of who I think should be favored in these. And I know that a lot of what goes into this is home court versus non, but I thought the Dream would be favored by 1.5. I gave them a slight edge. I almost made this a toss-up, and this is opened with the Sky at -1.5. Do you think that's correct? Do you think this line is accurate?
It's close, but I sort of lean towards you. I think if you're getting points with the Dream, it's probably worth taking. Like I would probably put it closer to a pick 'em or Dream -1 as well. But based on what we've seen from them, I mean, the Dream are one of those teams who could go out and dominate a couple games and then lose to the bottom of the league. They beat the Liberty earlier, right? They're so inconsistent, so who knows? But they looked awesome in the last 2 games against the Sparks, and I think they should be at least a pick 'em in this game, because I don't see the Sky as being like necessarily head and shoulders above the Sparks, where that's going to be that much of a different point differential compared to what we just saw in the back-to-back Dream versus Sparks games.
Yeah, I agree, and I was wondering if there's anything about specific teams that make you not like to bet them, because I know what mine are as I'm looking at this. I've discovered over the years, and for me, I've probably said this on a pod before, I hate teams who don't play defense, especially teams that are like bottom of the league in defense, because I cannot rely on you to get a stop ever. And then pair that with turnovers, which the Dream have a huge turnover problem. And I can't, it's so inconsistent. It's so yeah, your offense might light it up one night and come close to beating they beat the Liberty already this year. So they can beat really good teams on a good night, but they're so inconsistent. Are there things like that for you?
Yeah, it's the inconsistency, and for whatever reason a team
As
is
bettors,
inconsistent.
we hate it.
Whether it's the turnovers, exactly. Whether from an aesthetic standpoint, as a fan watching games, I love teams that shoot a lot of threes. But from a betting standpoint, I hate it, because teams that shoot a lot of threes can light it up one night and then go ice cold the next night. So, and that leads to inconsistency too. So there you go. Exactly. And so, yeah, to me, like, I love a team that just does what they're supposed to do. They beat the teams they're supposed to beat. They lose the teams that they're supposed to lose to. That's who I'm trying to bet on.
Well, that brings us right into the last game. Before we move on, though, the Dream Sky, I was going to say the Mercury, because the Mercury have been driving me nuts. Lose to the teams you're supposed to lose to, Mercury. What are you doing? They just beat down the Storm. It was not safe for children to watch, my goodness. But before we get to that one, Dream and Sky, the Sky it's been falling. I love saying that. The Sky is falling. They've not looked good lately. So I think for me, it's take points with the Dream, if not a money line, which the money line for them did cash on Tuesday as well. I was on that. This total's 169.5. I put it closer to 166, 165. So looks a little high for me. Might be an opportunity for an under, but not with that defense. Not betting an under on this team.
Yeah, it's always scary with the defense, but I'm with you though. I'm surprised to see this 170, because again, the Dream just played the Sparks twice in a row, and those totals were both in the 160s. They did both go over, but the second one barely went over. Closed at 168.5, finished at 169. So, again, when you compare the Sky and the Sparks, like, to me, the Sky are more of an under team than the Sparks. So I don't know how the Dream go from playing the Sparks to playing the Sky, and then the total gets higher. To me, the total should be lower against the Sky than it should be against the Sparks. So I would have had this in the mid 160s as well. And as scary as it is, I might take that over at 170, or the under, excuse me.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait, what? No. Please don't take the over. Okay, last game here, the Mercury at the Lynx. The Lynx are favored by 1.5. I thought this would be 2.5. So right about in the ballpark. And total, I guess, 164.5. That's what we have. So not surprised to see that here. I could see this going over because, again, we have a no defense team in the Mercury who just, came off of this probably nice confidence boosting win over the Storm on Thursday, just complete blowout for them. And then the Minnesota Lynx, who have looked a lot better with Diamond back in the rotation. Now, will she be back in the rotation is my question. But outside of that, where are you with this one?
Yeah, well, I was right in line with you. We didn't have lines like half an hour before we jumped on here, so I wrote down my guesses too, and I had Lynx -2.5 as well, but I had the total a little bit lower than that. I thought it'd be low 160s, like 161.5. So I might think about an under in this game, despite the lack of defense. You also are just talking about two bad teams, and sometimes even with bad teams lacking defense,
the
they
Lynx
also
have been
just
covering
miss
though.
Shots. Yeah. Sorry, say that again.
I'm always interrupting, Calvin. I'm so sorry to our listeners for that.
It's because I talk
and
too
to Calvin.
Because I talk too much.
No, I was gonna say the Lynx. You said two bad teams here, but the Lynx have been covering, and as we know in betting, good teams cover. So
they have. That's true. I do think I like the Lynx -1.5, but in terms of the bad defense. Like you're also,
Yeah.
especially on the Mercury side of things, you're talking about really bad offense too. Sometimes the Mercury just go a long stretch where it doesn't matter how well the other team's playing on defense, they just can't buy a bucket. So I
Mm-hmm.
still would probably be comfortable taking an under here.
Yeah. 164 and a half. Yeah. I think I like the under here as well. It's tough because I feel like a lot of Lynx games have gone over as of late. So I'm gonna have to look at this one a little more and see if it moves at all. I'm not like completely sold on under here just because the Mercury don't play defense. The Lynx games have been going over, but I do like the Lynx in this spot at -1.5, especially at home. I think they've done pretty decently at home this season.
Yeah, we definitely line up on that. And, anytime you're on something, I want to be on it. So I might end up staying off that under just because knowing that you sort of like the over.
I'll let you
But
know if I end up on it.
yeah, let
I'll
me
let
know.
everybody
We'll figure it
know.
out. We don't go head to
Diana
head very
Taurasi
often.
also.
But
No Diana Taurasi sitting out.
oh yeah, that's right. Rest for the tank, which honestly, that's another reason to go with the under because Diana Taurasi
That's good. Yeah.
helps the offense and hurts the defense when she's on the court. Like if we're being real, she's maybe the worst defender in the league, but she still gets buckets sometimes when she wants to. So
Okay.
I just anytime she's off the court, you got to move the total down a couple points as well.
Yeah, and they did already play. They played July 1st in Phoenix, and the Mercury lost. So I feel pretty good about this link spot, and especially with no Diana Taurasi, like you said. That I will say definitely lends itself to an under here. So maybe we get that. Maybe we get that. Any final thoughts? Or let's do win of the week. We have to wrap things up with win of the week. What's your win of the week, Calvin? Let the people know, because I think you got some
This
good
dude, you
ones.
know what? You already kind of teased it a little bit. The 5-0 day, that was pretty fun. I haven't checked
Yeah.
on the game that's going on as we're recording. It might have ended up going 0-3, so we won't talk about that one. But 5-0 on CBS Sports HQ was really fun, and especially because I was telling you, sometimes I get on those shows and I don't feel as confident and feel like I didn't talk great. Sometimes I get on the shows and I feel awesome. I'm like, yeah, I just
Crushed
nailed
it.
it. And I didn't feel great about that show, and then I ended up going 5-0. So sometimes that happens. And then I felt great about the next one, and I think I went 0-3. Although I need to check the score for sure. But sometimes that happens. The 5-0, I will take that anytime, whether I sounded good or not. So I think that was my win of the week.
That's incredible, obviously. 5-0 in one day. I think that just speaks to how betting is. That's the life of betting. I think people are most, when you first started betting, do you remember when you first started betting? Because when I first started, I was shocked to hear that a profitable bettor was like, oh, just above about 54%.
Yeah.
That'll do it for you. And I'm like, just half the time. I just have to be right a little more than half the time, but that's the nature of betting. And so sometimes we're very confident and it doesn't work out. And sometimes we have no confidence and we go 5-0. So not that you had no confidence in that 5-0 day. Obviously, you knew what you were doing. But I think that's a great win of the week. My win of the week is I'm going to a bachelorette party this weekend. I don't know if that's a win yet. We'll
Let's
see.
go.
Everyone check back next week and see if Danielle's alive. I'm going to Vegas for it. For one of the other VSiN hosts, Stormy Bonatoni, is getting married soon. So I'm going to her bachelorette party this weekend. Everyone pray for me. Think hydrating thoughts, because that's what I'm going to need in Las Vegas.
Yeah, you gotta let us
but
know next week if it was a win of the week.
Yeah, it might be a big L. Might be a big L for me. We'll see. But it's always a W to have Calvin on. He'll be back with us next week, I hope. Be on to preview the last slate of games, I believe, Wednesday. We have a big slate before the All-Star break. So hopefully we'll have you back on then. And thank you guys for listening. As always, follow Bet the W Show on Twitter, and you can find us there. You can find Calvin on Twitter at CWetzel31, and I'm just boring at Danielle Alvari. Thanks for listening.